Welcome to the Friday Casebook with Roger Casale, the founder of the civil rights organization New Europeans. Roger, tell me, what caught your eye this week?
Hi, Lena. You're based in Munich, and I noticed that the mayor of Munich, very jolly chap he looks, Dieter Reiter, but despite that, he's cancelled the Christkindlmarkt, the Munich Christmas market, for the second year in a row. You know that things are bad when the Munich Christmas market has been cancelled.
Yeah, and I only live here now for 2 years, so I missed it now twice.
Haven't been. I mean, my recollection of the Christmas market is full of nice Christmas baubles and things, and I suppose Dieter Reiter saw those Christmas baubles in his eyes were sort of little spike coronavirus viruses, and he's shut it down. It's a pity, because I'd heard that this year, with every 3 glue vines, they were going to give you a free oximeter, but nevertheless, it's not happening, and people would be upset. And I noticed in the Netherlands too, even though the Netherlands has a very high vaccination rate, people in the Netherlands are also going to be very, very pissed. And that's not because they're drinking lots of beer, which I love doing. It's because they're not going to be drinking lots of beer, because even though they have the highest vaccination rates, and they have to stay home after 7 p.m. and can't go to the pub. So that's very disappointing for people in the Netherlands. So Munich people won't be going to the Christkindlmarkt, and our Dutch friends won't be going out for their beers. So things are really, really bad. But worst of all, I think, is in Eastern and Central Europe, where unfortunately the mortality rates are soaring. And of course, the problem here is that the vaccination rates are very low. And this seems to be to do with the fact that people don't trust the government, but it seems to be a really serious consequence for you for not trusting the government. I think in principle, people are right not to trust their government sometimes, but I mean, to suffer the consequences of that, that people are suffering in Latvia in particular, and Bulgaria and Romania. So we're caught really in a difficult place. It's clear that the vaccination program alone is not sufficient. On the other hand, in areas where vaccination rates are very low, mortality rates are high. So this is going to be with us for some time. But the Economist leader this week is predicting that by this time next year, the current coronavirus crisis, and we need to prepare for future ones, of course, will be behind us. So let's hope that that is at least a prediction that will come good in the end.
I'm curious, Roger, what else sparked your interest this week?
One person who will be looking forward to Christmas is Donald Trump, but not necessarily this Christmas, Christmas 2024, which will just be a few days before January the 6th, 2025. And why do I say that? Because Trump will be thinking about the next presidential election, and some commentators in the United States, including the satirist Bill Maher, have referred to a slow-moving coup. What do we mean by a slow-moving coup? You'll remember on January the 6th, the storming of Capitol Hill. In fact, this week has seen the first sentences, including of Jacob Chamsley, the QAnon shaman. Remember the guy with the horned helmet?
Yeah, I do. Who doesn't is the question. Doesn't remember him.
41 months of prison sentence. So I don't think he'll be looking forward to Christmas. But one of the things that prevented Donald Trump from being able to falsely claim that he was the winner of the election was the fact that in certain Republican states, the victory was rightly handed to the Democrats. And that's because in those states, the chief electoral official was what they call a gubernatorial appointment, not a partisan, not a political appointment. And that's going to change in those states. Trump is moving behind the scenes to change electoral law in some of the key battle states so that the chief electoral officer, the next time there's a presidential election, will be a partisan official, and in his view will then be able to be manipulated to hand the election to Trump. I think this is very, very worrying, and there's a pattern here of changes behind the scenes, also laws being passed in Republican states to make it more difficult for certain parts of the electorate to vote, to introduce voter ID laws, to make absentee balloting more difficult, to change the gerrymandering, to change the boundaries of electoral districts and so on, all to prepare for a second Trump run in the presidency next time round, when he won't want to have the kinds of barriers, democratic safeguards there that the very courageous people, remember, some of whom were receiving death threats, who after several recounts in key battle states nevertheless handed the victory to the Democrats. Trump doesn't want that kind of problem next time round, and he's already preparing to clear those barriers out of the way. And this is deeply worrying. It's undemocratic, and we should keep across this at New Europeans and be aware of this and keep our viewers aware of this. And hopefully something will be done to prevent it. But certainly this is the intention of Donald Trump. And we're going to see similar kinds of things happening in Europe as well.
Yeah, then let's take a closer look at Europe again. What would you say, who's on the naughty step? Who belongs there? Well,
on the naughty step is Donald Trump's favorite son in Europe, Viktor Orban, for very similar reasons. He's passing a new law that's going to make it much easier for people to register their address even when they don't live at that address for electoral purposes, because he was hurt a little bit in certain outlying districts of Hungary in the last election by the two-vote ballot system that they have in Hungary. It's rather complicated when it would go into too much detail on the Friday Casebook. But essentially what's going on here is that Orban is trying to change the rules of the electoral system in Hungary to help, guess who, to help Orban. Sometimes these sorts of things can spectacularly backfire, and let's hope that that's the case with Orban. People don't like politicians who change the rules to suit themselves, and it may have a negative impact on him. And it may help to consolidate the opposition which is growing in Hungary, which is actually bringing together parties from both sides of the political spectrum, quite a wide range of parties, but who are probably all united in not only not liking Orban, but also wanting to preserve the rules of the game. Because the other thing that's happened is a double whammy for Orban this week, because the other thing that's happened is that the EU Court of Justice has said that his anti-Soros law, the law that criminalizes organizations that are supporting, for example, advice for asylum seekers in Hungary and migrants from being able to do so, those that are using, that are working with international organizations, preventing international organizations from providing support and advice for asylum seekers, for example, in Hungary, from doing so. That is found to have been contrary to EU law, and Orban's been told, you are not fulfilling your obligations under the European Union legal system. The problem with that, of course, is that Orban will just wear that as a badge of honor. He will say, look, I've been smacked on the wrist again by the European Union, and your reaction, dear Hungarian voters, should be vote for me. And all we can say is, well, be careful what you wish for in Hungary, because if you lose the rule of law, if you lose democracy, if you lose human rights, you'll be next in line. Don't think that that's something that's going to help you.
We introduced at some point the question, who's the star of the week? And today you've chosen two stars. Who are they?
Yes, well, one is Sarah Mardini, the sister of Yusra Mardini, who is a Syrian, both of whom were Syrian refugees. Yusra Mardini went on to compete in the Rio Olympics. She was famous. She and Sarah basically pushed a dinghy in the water, a capsized dinghy with 20 refugees in it to Lesbos. There's a film about this coming out next year. And Sarah's partner, Sean Binder, he's an Irishman and a former and a diver. She and Sean have been helping refugees helping to rescue them and get to Lesbos for many years. And they are now on trial. It's called the Lifesavers on Trial. They're on trial in Greece. Sarah is, in fact, not allowed to come to Greece for the trial. She's not a European citizen. They won't let her in. But Sean has flown there this week. He's bought a one-way ticket, doesn't know when he'll come back again. And they're being accused of all kinds of trumped-up charges, including, believe it or not, espionage, for simply accessing publicly available information from the Coast Guards to understand what was happening with some of these refugee boats. And it really is a terrible situation to be in, where people who, and Sean says, look, I'm not a hero, I'm just doing the right thing, where people who are just doing the right thing are being intimidated and threatened in this way. Sean has already been held in a Greek prison in terrible conditions, 17 people crowded into a cell for 106 days. And now he faces another prison sentence if he's found guilty of these charges. And of course, let's hope that he won't be found guilty, that he'll be released, that he'll be back in Ireland again in a few days. But in the meantime, this has had such a negative effect on people who volunteer, people who want to go and help refugees in Greece. We have many people, New Europeans, who are doing great work with refugees and done great work with refugees in Greece and around Europe, that they are being deterred from doing this. They are being told, look, if you try and help refugees in Greece now, you could face criminal charges. And meanwhile, the Greek government are pushing back migrants, which is illegal under international law. So we've got a world that's completely upside down, Lena, with governments acting illegally in relation to refugees, and individuals and civil society activists who are trying to do the right thing being criminalized. This needs to change.
What's coming up?
Next week, the European Civic Forum, which Europeans is a member of, will be holding its board meeting in Paris. It's just had its grant renewed for the next 4 years. It's doing wonderful work with its Civil Society Watch, which is a monitoring unit looking at civil rights abuses and human rights abuses in Europe, and will be taking part in that meeting and reporting back to the next Friday Casebook.
Thank you very much, Roger, for this week's Friday Casebook, and thank you for watching it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our New Europeans website.
See you next week.